In the first instalment of this Deconstructing Funny series, we looked at the cinematic oeuvre of the Coen brothers.
Yeah?
The focus of our exploration was the technique of repetition for comic effect.
Yeah.
In this second instalment, we'll be exploring this subgenre that is in equal parts terrifying and hilarious, known as horror comedy. Now, simply look at that phrase, horror comedy. Those with keen investigative skills can deduce the technique we'll be exploring in this instalment. Did you get it?
Yeah, boy!
The answer, of course, is juxtaposition. This is when you put two disparate entities together, often side by side, in order to produce a cumulative effect. A horror picture seeks to elicit fear in its viewers, creating a terrifying nightmare world of dread.
I can assure you that this is not in the least bit amusing.
The world of comedy seeks instead to elicit the riotous sound of joy. Surely only a deranged, diabolical madman would try to combine, or juxtapose, these two genres.
It could work!
This is not to say that horror and comedy don't have anything in common. Both genres are a roller coaster of intense emotion.
Here we go.
One frightens you to the point of defecation. The other can have you chortle to the point of urination. However, the question these films posit is, can you scream and laugh at the same time? Let us calibrate. What are the ways in which you can create these horrifically chuckle-inducing juxtapositions? Let us first start with a film's location. Your archetypal horror setting is a dark, shadowy affair, like the creepy old mansion or moonlit cemetery, a place where the dead can rise, especially if disturbed. It's less often you see a brutally maimed member of the living dead in a brightly lit hospital room. This dreadful-looking chap may look the part, yet his demeanour is surprisingly casual. He seemingly isn't hungry for brains or souls. He hankers for the everyday comfort found in a slice of toast.
Aren't you supposed to be buried someplace in New York?
Yeah.
Others have eyes too big for their belly. And it's never a good idea to mix the sweet and the savoury. This devilish critter is more partial to a festive gingerbread man. Christmas is supposed to be the most wonderful time of the year.
Right, Murray?
Typically, the sharpest thing you'll find in your tree is the sting of disappointment or a harmless pine needle. Is there a more innocent environment than a children's play park? You certainly wouldn't expect the baby occupying this pram to be a newborn dead. These onlookers don't seem to approve of this man's child-rearing, but little do they know, this toddler is more mischievous than most. This infant has a somewhat novel approach to the game of peekaboo. If we are to dig deeper into a film's DNA, we'll find a juxtaposition can be made quite simply by the act of cutting, the old snip and tuck. It's usual for horror comedies to chop together individual compositions to create unusual juxtapositions. Here, an affable American boy, far away from home, finally enters his bestial puberty. It is during this painfully relatable ordeal that the filmmakers cut to a toy model of Mickey Mouse, an iconic symbol of childhood reverie. This is not to imply that figures from children's entertainment are immune from violent acts.
That's Punch and Judy. They've always been violent.
But when contrasted with this hideous bunch, This murderous gang are dressed to resemble Nazi officers. However, their masks would not be out of place over an evening of Halloween trick-or-treating. What is the appropriate response to this sequence? Should we be wetting ourselves from laughter, or should we be soiling ourselves from fear? Fortunately, it was all just a dream, but we should still ponder the options. Number 1, do we laugh? Or number 2? Let us not lose our heads. Typically, in a horror film, comedy is inserted at opportune moments to relieve the audience from the nerve-wracking suspense.
Yes, sir? A naked American man stole my balloon.
However, a sliver of slapstick inserted at inopportune moments, like nervous laughter, only serves to increase the tension. An amusing sequence can put an audience off guard, leaving them unprepared when the next shock emerges. There's a frightful shock at the end of this next sequence, but listen closely and you might hear something out of the ordinary.
God, the scream is terrible.
The juxtaposition of the visuals and the sound is off. When a horror film lacks those spine-tingling sound effects, the suspense is relieved. A horror comedy will intentionally distort those conventions. Here, the moans and groans of pleasurable fornication in an X-rated movie theatre serve to undercut the appearance of these grim fellows and their morose subject matter.
You must die, David Kessler.
This unsettling contrast can also be achieved by the tone of the character's voice when suggesting methods for suicide.
Oh, a gun would be good.
Yes, you just put the gun to your forehead and pull the trigger.
Don't I need a silver bullet or something?
Oh, be serious, would you?
If you're thinking of harming yourself, there are better people to talk to. The scene ends with another werewolf transformation. Yet, considering the location, it would be easy to mistake it for an act more lewd in nature. Prick up your ears. If we go back to the first transformation, we'll find another juxtaposition that is atypical. Sam Cooke's Blue Moon is not what you would expect to play over this disturbing scene. Nor would you expect a zombie beating to be orchestrated to Queen's Don't Stop Me Now. Or for those murderous gremlins to be joined in a sing-along of Hi-Ho from Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Even this troupe of age-old vampires like to express themselves musically. Horror comedies like to contrast the macabre with the mundane.
My husband, he's a haemophiliac, you know, someone that bleeds a lot.
It's well documented that vampires suck blood, even though some are accident-prone. However, we often forget that their laborious upkeep sucks just as much as our own.
This is bullshit.
These creatures of the night may appear dead on the outside, but that doesn't mean they are dead on the inside.
A friend has just been killed in a flight of sunlight accident.
So, just because these monstrous creatures cause chaos and destruction, we shouldn't begrudge them the time to let loose. We could be mistaken for thinking these zombies are intoxicated pub dwellers. What these movies seem to routinely ask us is, are we so unalike? Once in a blue moon, it would behove us to look in the mirror, to locate the monstrousness within ourselves. We are all prone to territorial acts of aggression. Are a werewolf's carnivorous lunar activities much different from the primal urges of our own inner beast? Even those of us who are saints must still acknowledge the darkness that engulfs our world. These movies advise that we not get possessed by the evil that can... Oh, Lord.
That's enough!
These movies advise that we not get possessed by the evil that can swallow our souls. Laughter is the best medicine.
Swallow this.
Hi everyone, Julian here. Thanks for watching. First, I want to talk about TDI's new sponsor, Skillshare, and I want to thank them for helping us make the video. Skillshare is an online community with thousands of classes in design, business, technology, and lots more. I found a bunch of really in-depth tutorials about programs I use to help make my videos. In particular, I've enjoyed Jake Bartlett's After Effects lessons. He teaches some great techniques I'm looking forward to experimenting with on future projects. I've also been watching a number of photography tutorials, as that's a skill I've been trying to develop myself lately. Whether you want to learn something completely new or develop skills you already have, Skillshare has you covered. You can get an annual subscription for less than $10 a month, and I have a link in the description which will get you the first 2 months free. That's for the first 500 people that sign up. Also, shout out to the actor Stephen Chance for doing the voiceover. He's always a pleasure to work with. And thanks to my patrons. If you want to support the channel yourself, then head over to my Patreon site, and I'll see you in the next one.